Chapter 22 to 28. In an open field, there we saw the sort of selection that would determine the fate of Britain and elect the greatest king, Caliban. I could see that it was made from the best magecraft that Merlin could pull, but from just its texture I could conclude that he took Vivian's help in making this strong weapon. Many knights gathered to pull the sword out from the slab, but none was able to succeed. They were trying various ways, like pulling sword with 2 or more knights, or tying sword with rope, then pulling with force, hoping to take out the sword, but their efforts were in vain. Oi! We then heard a masculine voice and saw Kay waving his hand. Both Artoria and I nodded and went towards him. "You have become old that you are forgetting your own stuff, Brother Kay," I smirked. "Haha, I thought it will be another boring day of paperwork, so I intentionally left them at home." He chuckled and said, "Or you just want to date some other pretty girls?" I shook my head. I never thought that he would turn out to be second Merlin. He also liked to flirt with girls and date them if he thinks that the girl was of his taste, but all those girls end up leaving him in the end, since his duty as a knight was a busy one and he was still young, only 19 years old. In actuality, knights don't have any leeway to even look at a girl for marriage other than lust, but he was a playboy who likes to take advantage of his handsome face. Haha. Don't be jealous. You will also become handsome when you get a little older," he said with a smirk, to which I ignored while watching knights taking out the sword. "Brother Kay?" Artoria called Kay. "Ah. Is that the sword of selection?" she asked, looking at the shiny sword that would change her life. "Ah. Yeah. Merlin came here yesterday, saying that it will determine the next king," he answered and got ready to try his luck. He then looked in my direction as if wanted to ask something. He then sent Artoria to the stand to place his lance and armor. "Einar?" "Yes, Brother Kay? What do you think about this sword?" he asked, but I guessed that he wanted to ask something else. "Merlin's handmade with the essence of unidentified magic, if I say." I didn't why, but it was giving me a unique feeling that my honest side didn't like. The only reason I don't like wield any holy sword from Vivian's treasury was that it erases some of the emotions or anything related to pain. Well, my main reason was that it gives longevity by slowing down growth that I didn't want at this time. I am not asking about its magical aspects. "Do you think a person could take out this sword if he is suitable to be king and not fated to be king?" he asked again, and this time his focus was on my expression. I didn't have an answer. I was clueless. How should I know that if a person is suitable or not? I never judged the rule of anyone. There were still some nations that were ruled by small lords and kings, but I never get to know or scale out their laws of governing. Ah. I guessed. He stood up from his seat when Artoria came back and we all walked towards the slab. "Oh, look! The great knight will try his luck." Surrounding villagers who were watching people trying their luck started to gossip. "Hey, isn't that Merlin's disciple? I guess he could try some magic to take out that sword. Yeah, he is so cute. If the king is such a cutie pie, then this place will become a dreamland. And how is that possible that I didn't come into the discussion?" All 3 of us ignored the comments and came to the position of the slab. I could also read the description written on the slab, that whoever will take this sword out of the slab will be deemed worthy of becoming king of Britain. Brother Kay held the sword tightly, then put all of his might into taking out the sword. "Oh, sword of selection chose me. Ugh." After muscling to tear out the word out of slab for a minute, he finally let go of it. He became sweaty, clearly showing that he put all of his muscles. "So I am not worthy to become a king." He looked disappointed. Though he knew the identity of Artoria, he was still determined to try his luck. It was deemed a knight's dream to become a king someday, without realizing the responsibility they would face. Not to mention the biggest thorn that they will face, Vortigern. Is that great knight also not worthy? I wonder if the new king will really appear. Villagers became a little discouraged since Kay was the best knight of the town. If he isn't worthy, then who else? They didn't take me into account since I was a mage and a 12-year-old child, while Artoria was out of the question since she knew Arthur was girlish looking. It's a sword that no one can draw, a figure that only by existing can cause problems. The one that will become king will be decided by a tourney. Brother Kay said, looking at the sword like it was just a troublesome thing. "Does that mean?" Artoria guessed the meaning behind Brother Kay's words. "It has already been decided, this is a good way to choose." "Even if a king was not chosen?" Artoria asked. "What is a king who cannot be seen? It's more human to measure who has more power with its hand and with money." His eyes fell on me for a moment before reverting back to shiny sword, and he continued, "It is easier to help ourselves with objectives that align with our interest. No one wants to see or become the agent of God that saves everything." At his statement, I opened my eyes wide while realizing something. In short, he wanted to say that the person who shall be the king has to be someone who has the interest to become a king to protect something like a knight who knows what to protect than the person who is designed to become a king who has no idea what a king is. I looked at Artoria, who was a little perplexed at that time. I put my hand on her shoulder to get her attention and smiled that would be saying, "Don't worry, I am here with you." She also nodded, then asked Brother K, "Do you think the same?" "Of course. You should go back to father before you get mocked for having such a slender feminine body that can barely hold a sword." He asked Artoria to put on some muscles since she indeed looked like a girl even after being called Arthur publicly. "This is your first and last opportunity. You should go back home. In short, think about it before for one and last time before putting your hands on this sword." He looked at me for a moment before leaving me and Artoria alone to start preparation for jousting. "It seems that they will decide who will be the king with a competition. Let's go see." "Should we also go?" So Merlin's prophecy was not true? Villagers showed their disappointment before leaving the two of us alone. I looked at Artoria and was about to extend my hand but stopped. I had no words to say. I hesitated. It was night time and the sword of selection was glittering from bright moonlight. I approached the sword of selection when no one was around. Just like any other person who wants to try their luck, I was also the same, but why in the dark when no one was around? I didn't know the answer at that time, but it was visible reality. I was a coward. I didn't want people to see me taking out this sword and become a king in front of them. I just wanted to test if Artoria was the only one or if there is a hidden meaning behind Merlin's philosophy. I walked up to the slab and put my hand on the handle of the sword. Huh. I was jolted with silent surprise as the sword budged, and if I put even a tiny bit of force, I would have taken it out and become the king. What's the meaning of this? My mind was in mess. I knew that the sole reason Artoria wanted to win the Grail War was to undo the sword of selection because she went for the doom, taking the nation along with her. Will I be better than her? The answer was no. I was just a mage and knight with little to no sense of kingship than Artoria. I was just an ordinary person in my previous life too. How will I face the expectation of the whole of Britain? Will I be a better king? You could add dozens of reasons that I don't want to go such a path. Should I replace her and save her from her demise? My feelings conflicted with replacing the legitimate King Arthur to save my beloved Artoria against my whole wish to come here and be a knight to stand with the legend. I love you, Artoria. It will never change. I smiled and decided to pull the sword. Only to let go and walk back to my home. I didn't even have the courage to pull the sword, then how could I face the whole nation? That fear overshadowed my love for Artoria as a rational reason. I was just but a coward. Merlin's POV. I saw Einar walking back without even noticing me. No, perhaps he had noticed me, but he was thinking about something. Such a letdown. I was a little disappointed that even Einar didn't dare to save her. We will see. Einar, my beloved disciple, I am in this game too. When the time comes, I hope to be able to place all my cards on you. I smiled looking at the bright moon when petals rise in the air. Artoria's POV. Artoria Pendragon. That was the name given to me when I gained consciousness. It was always the case when I was living in an unknown place. I don't remember what happened in those 5 years except that I was brought into the family of Sir Ector, my father, former King Uther's most trusted vessel knight. Yes, I knew my father and I also know that I had a big sister, but I hardly met them. No, it would be wise to say that I have never met them. They were my real family, yet I was unknown to them. I always considered Ector's family as my own. I was trained by Ector as a knight and then given lessons by Merlin in my dream. One may ask, where is my wish in all of this? The answer is, it was already decided the moment. No, the reason I came to this world is to do that exact job, to become ideal king. I soon realized that Ector is not my real family, but it didn't change much. Brother K treated me as a brother than a sister, and Ector trained me as a knight as always. Nothing had changed. Before I knew it, I lost any reason to even think about my sex as a girl who has a wish to be part of society and spend a happy life. But even so, I always questioned myself. Why have I been falsely living as a man named Arthur? Why ever since I gained use of reason I have been trained in swordsmanship? Taught about the country and denied my own desires as a human? It was obvious. The day to draw the sword of selection. All for the sake of this day. To pull the king's sword, I must have a kind heart. I didn't know the faces of true parents. To fulfill the objective of creating an ideal king, I was born as a part of that plan. Honestly, I couldn't feel any emotion or wish about the pain inflicted by my father, King Uther. The same with the special missions that came from the teachings from the Magus, I didn't have any emotions towards that. But these 15 years that have been lived and experienced, day by day with nothing noteworthy befalling, with his adoptive father, Sir Ector, his stepbrother Kay, and the lively voices of the people that lived in the city. It was something different from admiration or love. It was only that it resonated in me as something right and beautiful. I want to become an inhabitant of the city, or I want to join the society. I didn't possess that kind of wish. Even so, I occasionally pictured that scene. I tenderly shut it down. When young, well, I wasn't too smart, but I was very hardworking and therefore told myself that it was not going to happen. Just like humans born to be human. For dragons, their desired function also exists. Everything has been going normally, or at least it should have been until a new person came into my life. Einar Sirius Dulac, Merlin's disciple at that time and soon to be the person that I would yearn to protect and live. He was the first person who treated me as a person, not as my false identity as Arthur but Arturia. When he first confessed to me, I was so confused. He was first, perhaps beside my brother, and the only person who opens a new feeling to my female side. But my heart melted a little only for it to go back to former self as soon as I heard his reason to be here, to serve the future king. It was me. I knew that at that moment I can't run from this persona of mine named Arthur Pendragon. But, there is something that eases my heart. His smile, his very existence became a reason to move forward. His smile, his food, his foul mouth, his devious cooked food, his magic, his handmade cookies, his stories about the distant future, and many delicious dishes that will be invented in the future, but I got to taste it. I liked all of it. There are slight problems with his flirtings, but I was happy that there was at least one person who treated me as a girl. I can live with that. If my reasons to move my destructive path were visible, I wanted to move for him. For making him happy, I will do it. I soon walked towards the shiny sword, so beautiful that shall be wielded by only a king. Thank you, Brother Kay, thank you Einar for everything, I spoke loudly and grabbed the hilt of the sword. But I am sorry. It is better if you think it through before pulling that sword. Just when I was about to pull that sword, I heard a kind and familiar voice. You surprised me, Merlin, I said to the magus standing behind me. This is the first time we meet outside the dream, isn't it? Merlin. He was the same as usual except that he was hiding his face just to let me see his lips to deliver enough emotion to understand. I am not the one to say anything bad about it, but it is better if you stop. After pulling that sword, you will stop being human. That's not all. You will be hated by all kinds of humans, and you will reach a horrendous death. At that moment, I could see a genuine concern for me, but I had my resolve. I didn't let go of the sword, indicating that I was not going back. Are you sure? He asked once again. I was about to draw that sword when I felt very soft and warm hands grabbing my hands. Please don't do this, Arturia. I am begging you. It was Einar. He despaired with the expression that had looked like my downfall. I guess he was also aware of it. I knew my end for the better or worse within my heart. Thank you, Einar. Please don't be sad. I said and smiled. I was genuinely happy that someone cared about me. Many people were smiling, so I am sure of this path. It is not the wrong one. Something I must choose. Einar, I may not be very indecisive and intelligent like you, but I am very hardworking. Please look after me, Einar. I said, then looked at his eyes with my resolve. Einar, I also love you. Please be on my side. This is my only selfish request. I believe I could change my fate if you are with me. I confessed my true feelings. It was wonderful yet painful. It's okay, Arturia. My resolve will never shatter, but know this, I will not let that doom befall on you, neither do I will let you do go in that pit. But even so. He let go of my hands with a face still hesitating. Thank you, Einar. And I am sorry, Einar, there has to be someone who has to step up, and it could only be me. With that slight regret, I pulled the sword out from the slab and raised it high in the sky. I will not be backing down. It was the day when drawing the sword of selection became the second biggest regret of my life. Einar's POV. Although Arturia confessed to me, I was feeling down. I didn't know why I let her draw that cursed sword, but at that moment, it was the most logical thing to do. Merlin, is her downfall evident? I asked the sole culprit of all of this. Yes, Einar. Deep down you also know, even so, better than me. He said, looking at me with a serious face. Is there nothing I could do? I asked, looking at his eyes, looking for an answer. There is, Einar, there is, but it all depends on you, my beloved disciple. More so I believe in your fate than any other being I have ever seen. You could change it. I am sure of it, but it depends on your will, Einar. Let us see. Merlin smiled, which assured my heart. Merlin, you have the greatest clairvoyance, I assume? I let go of my negative emotions to test something. That seems to be the case. He shrugged his shoulders. Merlin, look. A bird with boobs up there. I said, pointing at the sky. Where? Better be D-cup tits. He started searching the sky like an idiot. I reinforced my leg with enchantment magic, rose like a football player ready to kick the ball, and kicked the balls of white incubus. Crack asterisk. It was so strong kick that I heard a cracking sound making him raise high in the air before landing on his face. He let out a high squealed voice, looking at me for answers for destroying his greatest merit to coax women. Hey, I thought your clairvoyance would see that coming. I blamed him instead for not dodging the nutcracker kick. But it feels so good, I felt very good to release some tension. It doesn't work that way. He struggled to answer, looking at me with annoyance. Now you tell me. So your clairvoyance is not that omnipotent. It means I could change the future. Thank you, Merlin. You are the best teacher. Bye, I said and smiled before running away. Why, you're welcome. Bleh. Magus of Flower passed out. Einar's POV. Uproar befell in the city where an unknown knight with feminine looks drew the sword, calling himself the rightful king. Many people criticized the maturity of the said slender knight, but Arthur Pendragon defeated all of them without even a hint of mercy and showed them why he was chosen to be a king. They were suspecting the identity of the knight as female, but Arthur proved them wrong by defeating any knight that comes with the suspect. Behind the rightful king, only 3 people knew the real identity of King Arthur: Merlin, the Magus, Sir Kay, the city's best knight, and me, the disciple of Merlin. I was still a little perplexed about how to act in front of her, Artoria, since she seemed to be a little indifferent. Against the time I spent with her where she was showed visible emotions that come from her heart, the current Artoria with the iron will was different. She was now showing the dignity and majestic aura that was befitting for a king. Although she was acting indifferent, I believed that she was the same Artoria from inside, as she always ate 5 times of normal human whenever I cooked something for her. She ate, then wipes her mouth, then asked, no, ordered me to make more with a composed look. She became a little demanding, but I didn't hate it, just a little different. I was happy that she was still the same eating pig Artoria from inside. Anyway, we were now preparing for the legendary adventure of King Arthur. We have to travel a long distance while conquering or taking control of cities that come in our way to make our way to the kingdom of Cameliard. It was the kingdom where our base of operation will set, where we will make a good stronghold, then start conquering the areas where Saxons lived and ruled by Vortigern. I think Cameliard is somewhere in Wales that I guessed from the map shown by Merlin. Yawn asterisk. I yawned when I realized that it was morning and I skipped my sleep again. I was forging lance for Brother Kay, since he will be one of the first knights of the Round Table. Originally this responsibility to grant magical weapons befalls at Merlin's hands, but I took that responsibility since I wanted to forge weapons for him. I knew enchantment and sealing spells and uses a spear, a long weapon, so I thought it would be best to set foot in the class of blacksmith. I didn't tell him this yet, but I wanted to surprise him since he was by far my greatest support and probably the only real human that I looked up to. I wanted to give him a weapon that he will use in our voyage to protect the ones he wants. In this way, I would also like to thank him for everything he has done for me as a true brother. Now onto my magecraft. I realize that I don't own any special type of magecraft. Merlin has his own way of making magic spells and Vivian has her own, but I only knew what they taught me. I make some new spells like making commodities from rare magic, but the system of magic was similar to that of Merlin's. I wanted to make something that I could take my pride in. I took out a gemstone from my pocket and sighed, looking at the sky through it. Maybe I could use this. I discovered that some gemstones have properties that could work better than regular spells. There were also diverse where one gemstone could work in multiple ways with simple spells. Overall they could prove to be very versatile and powerful, except for one problem: cost. They are still rare and hard to find gemstones suitable for the desired spell, not to mention you still have to craft them to make it precise. In this age where technology was a myth, forging gemstones in the desired way was still a big feat. Cost and time, I don't mind cost since all 3 years in this world with my rank EX luck, I was able to find some treasures so I was plenty rich, but time was a problem. I was still struggling to polish my spearsmanship and my ability to control different forms of Chastiefol. How could I make time for learning forging? Not to mention that I will be part of Arthur's adventure to help him unite Britain. I let go of this idea of making my own magic system for the future. Ha! I turned my gaze on the blonde-haired girl swinging a golden sword to familiarize herself. I wonder why she was working this hard, but I had no intention of stopping her since I respect her resolve and hard work. Let's see how her intuition works, I smirked since she had a skill that she used to move instinctively when someone approaches her with hostility. I took out a dagger from the book of Chastiefol that was in my back and silently opened the window and jumped. I controlled my speed in midair and landed softly. I then cast some buffs on my feet to remove noise, then started walking behind her. Although her intuition was an amazing ability, it has one flaw. It doesn't work if you don't show hostility. I soon approached behind her as she didn't notice, but as soon as I raised my dagger with real intention to stab her from behind, she turned around with incredible speed, smacked away the dagger from my hand with her sword, and jumped on me. Oh! I cried a little when I fell on the ground and she landed on me pointing her sword at my neck. Einar? She showed confusion but smiled helplessly and sighed, these tricks of yours are getting old. Yeah, but it is good that you don't get surprised like before making a cute face and develop this skill. Hee, it's true. Those were some embarrassing moments. Besides I could feel your smooth butt on my belly, so it's still a blessing in disguise, I said raising brows. Sigh asterisk when will you grow up? For you, never. By the way Artoria, my face side let me control my uncontrollable emotion since I am still not the age of maturity where I would attack someone like an animal or become depressed. I said with a smile. I don't get it? In short, if you don't get up from me in 10 seconds, I will show you what public sex is. Although it will be considered a homosexual where Merlin's disciple was riding the rightful king. I said with a smile indicating to the female king that if she wouldn't get up, I would lose my sanity and my horny side will be revealed making me the true disciple of Merlin. She didn't show any embarrassment as her eyes got behind her bangs, giving the vibe of H protagonist as she went blank. Although she stopped blushing like a girl, I could still feel the sudden embarrassment she was feeling from the Ahogue, which was standing straight in a shock, in her head that works like a signal antenna. She silently got up and turned around with a cough. So why have you come here? She asked, without facing me. Just to mess with you. You know, there has to be someone to cheer up the rightful king, my sweet Arthur, I said with a silly smile. Hee, your presence alone makes me happy Einar. She chuckled and then added a request, say, do you want to have a spar with me? Sure. It is nothing serious. No. This time I want you to give your best. I want to see how far I could go with my Caliban against your Chastiefol. She said with firm expression. It was the first time that she proposed me a duel with such resolve. I must take this seriously. My book flew in the air and I called the name of my weapon. Chastiefol first form, spear release. Third person's POV. The day when two holy weapons would clash was happening. Einar could be seen standing with the floating spear in front of him. He was wearing his trademark white robe made of exquisite fabric. However, it was also meant for defense as garments were enchanted with advanced magecraft that works in similar ways to normal metal armors. On his opposite side, Artoria was standing with full plate armor to block any attack. Although some may find it troublesome, but it was made to have a good defense against weapons while providing better flexibility. On her hand was her soon-to-be legendary sword Caliban with the tip on the ground. The other was a blonde-haired man in his sleepwear yawing and standing outside the battlefield acting as referee. Thanks to his siblings, he was now awake early in the morning. Before the journey, he wanted to take one final sleep but due to a sacred duel between two holy weapons, he has to keep an eye on the match. He was Sir K. Merlin could also be seen watching the duel between his two students sitting on the top of the roof. Interesting. Artoria, should I use only my spear or magecraft? You are going to lose either way. Einar said with a smirk rotating the levitating spear. Einar, you should use your full force. I want to see how much I am capable of. If you don't then I would never know where my strength lies. Artoria said then took the stance ready for any minute. She wanted to fight Einar, who was both tricky and strong with tons of skills and magic, so she came in full armor, which was ideal for defense from unnoticeable attacks while she focused on the front attack. She could only polish her skills by testing herself against a tough opponent with magic. Very well then. I will show you that just drawing a sword from a slab will not make you strong. You are my beloved, but this time I will not hold back. Einar then firmed his stance and started casting buffs on himself and his spear. Custom spell, Arrows of Light. He cast a spell where 2 magic circles appeared behind him. It was a spell where Einar could shoot arrows of light from one position continuously, but they will disappear once you move from your previous position. On paper, Arturia seems to be weak since she only had her sword technique and sword of selection. She also knew Mana Burst, a skill where she uses her mana to boost her physical parameters within few seconds. On the other hand, Einar seemed to have the upper hand since he knew a bunch of magic and had a versatile weapon that could act both in offense and defense. However, the reality was different. Arturia has a slight upper hand. Although Einar had a bunch of tricks in his arsenal, he simply lacks one special technique that he could use in close combat against a master knight like Arturia, who has now become stronger from drawing Caliban. In short, Einar is a jack of all trades and master of none. Einar also has low defense, so his only choice is to keep Arturia at bay by range attacks. Okay, so the duel will be of 2 rounds. Whoever wins the final round wins. Both of you are ready? Kay raised his hand, ensuring if both the players were ready for the duel. Start! Einar was the first one to commence the attack as arrows behind him started to shoot multiple arrows at Arturia. Boom asterisk boom asterisk boom asterisk. Arturia also dashed toward Einar since her only choice was to close the distance and then strike her opponent. When Einar shot the arrows, she used her intuition and dodged some of them while reflecting others from her sword. Slice asterisk. Kook! She groaned when one attack was able to strike on her joint spot where armor was not covering the body. Cling asterisk cling asterisk. She was running at him with full speed head-on while deflecting arrows. Just when she was about to set foot on in next moment, her intuition rang and she jumped in the air and then deflected an arrow towards the place where her intuition was a warning. The arrow hit the spot and an explosion took place. Boom asterisk. Trap? Arturia realized that Einar was not playing this time and this might be his best way to fight. Hehe, you have just activated my trap card. Einar as usual smiled and kept attacking Arturia through magic circles. Arturia soon realized a mistake she was making. A mage's biggest support is the area around him, and traps and tricks are their main combat style. She stopped running and then took a deep breath. She then used her mana to spread all around the place. She knew this technique to detect anything hidden. Her trick worked as she was able to ascertain the places where traps were laid by Einar. Good technique you got there that you learned from me. Einar clapped when Arturia used a technique that he taught to Arturia. Although Arturia didn't possess enough brain cells to understand complex magecraft, Einar taught her some magic techniques that didn't require any kind of chanting or spell casting to trigger. Arturia was not a mage, but she possessed mana, so it was not a problem to learn some tricks. Cool. Arturia groaned again when another light arrow was able to hit the critical spot. She charged again, but this time she was able to detect the traps with ease and avoided them. Just when she was 3 meters away from Einar, she flicked with incredible speed to finish the match soon. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of Einar. You are finished. She swung the sword vertically. Not so hurry dear, Einar chuckled and dodged her strike with ease. His 2 magic circles behind him dispersed the won't move with the host. Huh. Arturia realized that Einar was able to trap her successfully as she put her foot where Einar previously was standing and stuck her foot in a bog. She tried her best to pull her foot from the sticky mud and she was able to do it, but it was too late. Chastiefol second form, Guardian. Finish her. Einar transformed his spear into a big stuffed bear that charged at Arturia and punched her face. Bam asterisk. Arturia flew in the air before landing and then rolling several meters away. Cool. Arturia groaned and couched and was about to get up when she felt a pointed spear on her neck and saw Einar a meter away controlling his spear. You lose, Arturia, Einar said with monotone as if showing how pathetic the rightful king looks. That hurtled Arturia's pride and she delivered her best in this fight, yet she was miserably defeated without Einar even using his full power. First round goes to Einar, Sirius. Both of you take your positions. Kay announced the result and asked both of them to take a stance for the second round. Arturia, you asked me to fight with full power and yet you are playing like a little girl. Are you mocking me? Einar uttered those words, mocking Artoria, who was still on the ground. Einar looked at Artoria for one final time before going back to his position. I see. She realized her mistake. She realized that she was taking Einar's sacred weapon too lightly. She got up from her and then removed her helmet as well as lessening the armor on her body, leaving only a chest plate to defend critical attacks. She then walked to her position and took the stance. Sacred sword Caliban, awaken. She spoke and the sword on her hand started to glow. Not only her sword but she herself was glowing with a bluish aura. Now that's my Artoria. Einar smirked and raised his spear with one hand while chanting magic spells with the other. Now then, second round of the duel, start. Kay announced the second round and both, Artoria and Einar, disappeared, leaving just dust. Both of them disappeared, leaving dust behind. Clang asterisk. This time Einar was in full offense, with controlling Chastiefol with one hand and chanting spells and from other. Of course, he doesn't need to chant full spells and most of the spells were recorded in his book, he just has to call their names to cast. Einar. You better use your full strength, because this time, I will not hold back. Artoria charged at Einar, who nodded and swung his spear. Clang asterisk, clang asterisk. Artoria tried to get close to Einar, but he was able to block her by using his spear effectively. There are 3 knight classes, saber/swordsman, lancer/spearman, and archer/bowman. Saber will always have advantage against lancers if saber is close to lancer, since defending with a long weapon against a short weapon like a sword is difficult. Lancer could only keep a certain distance against the saber and make a finishing blow before the saber could come close and hold a grip against the lancer. Einar's strategy works similarly. His only option of defense is his guardian Mono, who could block against almost any attack except ice-type attacks. Defending with spear and entering in close combat against Artoria at full power would be suicidal, as she had a firm sword technique and as soon as she closes the distance, it will be game over. Ha! Artoria was now composed and was reflecting the strikes of the levitating spear as well as closing the distance. Fire magic, fireball, 5 fireballs rose in the air from Einar's book and shot towards Artoria. Boom asterisk, boom asterisk, boom asterisk. Rapid explosions occurred where Artoria was and dust covered the entire field. Arg! Did I hit her? Einar thought when he heard Artoria's groan. She had greater endurance than Einar, so lesser attacks like fireballs could severely injure a person, but not Artoria. Just when Einar was inspecting the situation, Artoria, with minor bruises, emerged from the cloud of dust in the air and struck down her sword in front of Einar to create a big lightning impact. AAA. She saw Einar blown away before rolling on the ground. She smiled and walked closer to him, then pointed her glowing sword to him. You lose this time, she said, looking towards him. Oh, did I? Einar just smirked evilly like he never took damage at all, and soon she realized that it was just a trick as Einar vanished. Illusion? She thought she got Einar, but she forgot that Einar was Merlin's disciple as he vanished from the spot. Got you. She heard Einar, but before she was able to move away, Einar's guardian Mono grabbed Artoria from behind. Haha, come on Artoria. Did you not learn anything from me? Charging naively to a mage who also uses a holy weapon is just plain stupid. Is that what you call a resolve of a rightful king? It's not even a joke. How can you be a king when you can't even win against your own subordinate? Einar started to mock Artoria, who was being held from Mono. Arg! Not good. Why do I keep repeating the same mistake? Why do I have to endure his nonsense? Artoria was asking questions to herself. She kept repeating these mistakes over and over again. What if one mistake resulted very lethal, that she won't get a second chance? She thought that she was still going the same strategy as an ordinary knight, charging directly against Einar. Oi, is she the same Artoria that I fell in love with? Artoria, you said that you love me, but I could only assume that it was just a hollow confession with no meaning and resolve. Is that what king's supposed to do? Einar came a little closer and laughed at Artoria's pathetic figure. Artoria widened her eyes. This time, she glared furiously at Einar, who was now mocking her pride. She gritted her teeth, but then calmed down and glared at Einar. Einar, I know that it was a shallow confession that I am still not aware of. I was naive to think that I could keep those words with that hollow resolve, but know this, Einar, my feelings for you and the people who I want to protect are true. Artoria confessed, and then the bluish aura started raging with the same blue sparks. Einar also noticed the change and took some steps back with a smile on his face. Ha! Artoria screamed and cut the hands of Mono and then kicking the stuffed bear away. Momo flew away and before it could land on the ground it changed into a spear and flew towards Artoria to engage her in combat. Clang asterisk clang asterisk. Artoria was now in full mana burst mode. She charged at Einar but had to focus on a flying spear that was easily able to halt her charge for seconds. She soon came close to Einar but this time she first made sure to detect his presence and ensuing if there were traps before swinging her sword at him. Whoa! Einar dodged her strike and blew sand on her eyes. Using dirty tricks, eh? Artoria smirked as his trick was a little success because of sand blurring her vision. Everything is fair in love and war. And this is both, my beloved Artoria. Einar cheerfully said and dodged some more of her moves. He was also surrounded with bluish ripples indicating that he was strengthening his physical aspects through mana. If not then he had no chance to dodge a single strike against Artoria who was both faster and stronger than him. Clang asterisk clang asterisk clang asterisk. Both of them entered in close combat with both of them in full mana burst and started exchanging strikes. Artoria finally put her power in a strike and pushed Einar away who blocked the direct attack with his spear but not the power behind the impact. It's over. Artoria taking this chance of breaking Einar's guard shot towards him. Hehe, you are still underestimating my weapon, Artoria. Einar smirked and his spear got bright, dividing into multiple balls, before taking shape of many small kunai-like spears. Chastiefol Form 5, increase. Einar pronounced the name and turned his hand down, signaling the small spears to rain at Artoria. Form 5, increase, an army of small kunai-like spears are multiplied from 1, their individual trajectories are controlled by the host at will through simple motioning and gesturing of hands. What? Artoria widened her eyes and changed her trajectory to dodge small spears, but not before taking some hits. Clang asterisk clang asterisk. Artoria didn't mind small cuts and engaged in combat against this rain of small spears. Einar was also focusing all his attention to control increase. He unlocked this form after earning enough points when he witnessed Artoria drawing Caliban. Although he had good control at levitating the spear, he had to divide all his focus on those small spears. He didn't show them to anyone since he had to master them before showing it, but thanks to Artoria asking for a duel, he has now a great trump card against a knight with a single sword to defend itself. Not good. Just how many tricks he has in his sleeves? I have to hurry and look for a time, but how? Cool. Artoria was thinking of a strategy to escape from this kind of attack at all costs. She could feel that those small spears were not moving like the regular spear, but they were fast enough to hit her at a critical spot. She was deflecting those attacks while also dodging some and taking some strikes. Although her mana burst was keeping taps on her focal points, she was still getting damage from those spears. Caliban had a unique property that healed her whenever she gets cuts and wounds, but her ability to heal herself through that essence is slow and she was getting cuts and bruises faster than she could heal. She was getting soaked in blood but she was too focused to get rid of small spears than worry about her injuries. Looks like I have to finish this game of cat and mouse. Suddenly Einar spoke with a lazy tone and small spears stopped moving. Artoria didn't know what he was doing but it was bad news for her. She saw that all those small spears flew in the air and aimed at her. Fight fire with fire raining daggers. Einar said with a monotone and turned down his finger. Those small spears started to rotate before falling on Artoria at incredible speed. Artoria gritted her teeth and raised her sword in the air. Caliban. Bright right emerged from the sword and clashed against small spears. Boom asterisk. A big explosion occurred in the field that echoed all around the town. Arg! Kay was also trying his best to stand from the impact as a result of his two monster siblings dueling and making havoc, but he was also blown away. Merlin was also watching with a serious face while protecting himself and the house through a barrier. Well, I think it's over. Einar muttered when he can't sense the Artoria's mana burst anymore. He felt a little bad for using lethal moves against young knight, but he can't go easy on the future king who will face fights of a much larger scale. Just as he was about to look for his brother Kay, something emerged from the dust and shot towards him. What? Einar focused and controlled all those small spears on incoming Artoria. Bang asterisk. However, the thing was not Artoria but her chest armor. A diversion? Einar widened his eyes and turned around to see Artoria bleeding all over the place and pointing her glowing sword at Einar's neck. Einar closed his eyes and smiled. I admit defeat. He raised his hands. Good. Artoria sheathed her sword after winning the second and final round. Then, winner is Artoria. Fix this place before coming back. Kay said with deadpan eyes, reminding them that they destroyed the area from their duel. He then went inside home. What a fascinating weapon Einar has. I should focus on teaching her some magic to empower herself against opponents like Einar. It will be good for the ideal king. Merlin praised Einar before vanishing with flower petals. Einar looked at Artoria, who was exhausted and bleeding. Her clothes were also torn and a little bit of her cleavage could be seen, but she was just standing there like a doll. Come on, don't need to be shy, Einar said, extending his arms. Artoria smiled slightly before closing her eyes and falling on Einar's arms. Einar then placed her head on his lap and started to heal the rightful king. I am sorry, Artoria, for saying mean things, Einar said while caressing her hair. It's all right. You said to remind me that I was weak. It was for my own good, Artoria said with monotone, but her ahob was swinging, saying that she was happy. Anything this first knight and sole lover of this king could do? Einar asked with a chuckle. I want chicken curry for dinner and ice cream cake for the dessert, she said with closed eyes and cuddled her head on his soft lap. Hi. Einar's POV. Our journey soon began. Based on 4 people, our group, including me, Artoria aka Arthur, Merlin, and Brother K, soon came across a city near the town we lived. It was not that far, so we didn't face any problem except that I had to sit on the horse with Brother K since I still didn't have my personal horse. Although my fear of horses was gone, I still don't like to ride any animal. If required, I could levitate myself using my spear as support, but Merlin stopped me since using magic in public would get a lot of unnecessary attention. His words in the group were of top priority. And, in anime, Merlin showed to ride a horse despite having the ability to fly. Of course, if I have to ride with someone it has to be Artoria, but she was now on her path of a king, so respect should be shown to her. A subordinate can't ride the same horse as a king, can he? Another option was Merlin, but there is no way that I would go with half incubus. So the only option was Brother K. Anyway, when we entered the city, I felt a little odd since it was giving a queer feeling. People were tensed a little, and when Artoria appeared as a king with a golden sword on her hand, they rejoiced that they finally found their savior. Though I could see the smiles on their faces with hopeful eyes at Artoria, I could tell that they would be going to place all of their tension on her shoulders, which is not good. About Artoria, she was wearing full body armor revealing only an expressionless face and blonde hair with a ponytail. Of course, she looked like a girl no matter how you see it. Merlin suggested Artoria cut her hair short, but only to face his neck pointed by 2 weapons of mine and Kay's. There was no way in hell we would allow Artoria to go to that extent. So in the end, Merlin made a mystic code for Artoria that let her proceed as a man then as a woman. And, she is wearing the same armor as her Lancer version, but without a helmet. Anyway, the city lord didn't retaliate against the claim of Artoria as rightful king, but instead accepted her as his king with only one request, to clear a barbarian outpost. Upon inspection, we found out that those barbarians were a compromised group of bandits and thieves. They were harassing that city, including a couple of more surrounding areas, contracting the supply of necessities in the city. Of course, Artoria has to accept it since by clearing the barbarian post, she could raise some achievement and gain some influence. Not only she, but I would also gain a massive influence in the upcoming operation of the Round Table. Brother K and Merlin have sufficient achievements so they were safe, but Artoria and I were greenhorns, so we have to thrive by making our own ways. After accepting the quest, we first need to gather forces. It was a hard challenge. Since the city was poor and people were starving due to the harry of barbarians, recruiting strong knights for the assault was necessary. Artoria wanted to take all the knights available in the city to battle, but I argued that they would be going directly to death's door if we aren't careful. Besides, leaving the city without any defense would be foolish. Thanks to Merlin's and Brother K's approval, Artoria didn't argue back and accepted my advice. Her argument was based on the fact that if we were a little late and let barbarians gather their troops in that time, then there would be more casualties. If that were to happen, then we would face a bigger challenge. She had a point, but it was risky. She was sure of her victory, but she had to consider the casualties we might face. Though I was able to correct her with the help of Merlin and Brother K, I wouldn't know if she would go the same route. Of course, her decision would have been correct if we go for high-risk high-reward conditions, but they were just barbarians and not another army that we would be facing. Anyway, we were able to gather enough forces. They were around 300, which mainly consist of knights on foot. Only around 100 were cavalry riding horses who would be on the rear. Shortly afterward our march began. "How is your new armor is doing?" I asked Brother K. I was now lying on a spear with a boring look and levitating in the air. Great. This is more than I could ask for. It is light and sturdy. Lance also looks pretty amazing. Let's see how it goes in real battle. Brother K answered with a bright smile. Just like a kid excited to see his new toy, he was also acting the same when I gifted him the armor. He is now covered in full plate white shiny armor and a beautiful lance. Though those metal plates looked heavy, they were light as leather armor. He was also carrying a shiny silver lance that has a cutting edge on one side that he could use to slice something. He could also channel mana for further impact. It was the first set of weapons I crafted for someone. Vivian taught me smiting and crafting, but I never really considered any need to master since I had Chastiefol, so any other weapon was unneeded. I nodded after his response, then flew forward where Arturia was moving. Hi, my beautiful manly king. I decided to tease Arturia, who was riding her horse with a monotone face. Do you want something, Einar? She asked dryly, but her ahogue was swinging left and right, indicating that she was happy that I came to talk to her. Seriously, how the hell her ahogue works? Bored. I was wondering if you could show me your smile. It brightens my day. She nodded and smiled, but I was not satisfied. Not this one for your subjects, but the one you showed after eating my food like a pig, I said. PFF. Merlin and Kay snickered before they coughed and start talking among selves. Arturia covered her eyes and upper cheeks with her bangs to hide her embarrassed face and smiled. Thanks, Einar. This time she showed me a bright smile. You're welcome, Arturia. Now it's time to take a kiss. I said and got closer, but she smacked my head lightly. Be serious here, Einar. This quest is important for both of us. Arturia said with a serious face. TCH. Yeah. It's just a barbarian post. What the hell they could possibly do? Release wyverns on us? I shook my head. Even if I try to be serious, I can't since the enemy is just some barbarians. I have dealt with them a couple of times, so it was not hard for me. Soon we reached the gate and saw a single person standing at the watchtower. He smiled and blew a horn. Chi asterisk. High squealed cries could be heard from the outpost, and 3 figures emerged from the outpost and flew in the sky. Wyvern? Congratulations, Einar. Speak of the devil, you should get serious. Arturia said with a smug smile. I nodded with a red face. I can't believe my tongue to be this black. Our first battle to begin our legends began. Attention! Don't panic! Arturia yelled at the knights, who were terrified with the appearance of wyverns. Why shouldn't they be? Those were freaking 8-foot-tall wyverns. Even I was confused since wyverns were considered a rare and highly dangerous species, and taming them was another matter. There were 2 green and 1 black, one who was the biggest and possibly the leader. There was a high possibility that someone very strong was hiding in the post. Even Merlin was on guard and casting spells to create a barrier without waiting for Arturia's order, since he knew what the best course of action would be. Sir Einar and Sir Kay will deal with 2 small ones, while I will be facing the big one. Merlin, stay here and protect knights till we finish those wyverns. I suspect they are not ordinary barbarians as they were described. Arturia acted fast to convey her orders. She even called us in the capacity of knights. Her voice was showered with majestic aura, and her face looked firm that calmed those knights down in few minutes. I was also baffled by how fast she acted and how effective her response was. Just like she ordered, Merlin immediately placed a large-scale barrier on the knights before the rain of arrows was showered on them from the barbarian outpost. Arturia and Brother K jumped towards flying wyverns using magic boots prepared by me and Merlin. Yosh! Time to beat this lizard, I said, and then I also channel magic on my boots and rose from the ground. Round spells formed on my book of Chastiefol, just like Caster Gilgamesh. I was holding the book with my left hand while controlling the spear from my right hand. And I decided to change his combat style. I couldn't fly, but I could always use magic to do it. Chia asterisk. The wyvern cried, looking at my directions. Wyverns look like dragons, but there is a difference. Dragons usually have a long neck, a pair of wings, and 4 legs, but wyverns have 2 lower legs and wings instead of their upper arms. Dragons are also way bigger, standing up to 10 to 15 meters tall, whereas wyverns only are 5 to 8 meters long. Another similarity is that they all spit fire from the mouth. I flew in the air to engage it in the air battle and also to let it away from the army. Chia asterisk. It cried again and breathed fire towards me. This is troublesome. I sweated a little as the fire was directly shot towards the forest and incinerated the area. Ah, forest fire, no good. I then flew in the air to finish the wyvern off. Chastiefol formed 5, increase. The spear turned into small kunai and rained on the wyvern. Chia asterisk. It cried in agony when its wings pierced with small spears and it fell on the ground making an explosion of dust. Bam asterisk. When I get closer to the wyvern who was taking its last breath, it tried to bite me for one last attempt to kill me but I dodged. What a pitiful creature. Who have such luxury to tame a wyvern? I questioned myself. It was almost impossible for normal humans to tame wyverns since they are vile creatures who hunt humans for fun and food, but because humans were in great number and wyverns have fertility low, they hardly appeared to human eyes to avoid group attacks. I then stored it in my inventory since its corpse could be used for resources and then fly towards the position of the army. Brother Kay and Arturia were still busy dealing with wyverns. Merlin was a little exhausted but still keeping a big barrier allowing knights to retreat to the rear. Some knights were also surrounding the outpost as not to let barbarians escape. I fly towards Merlin to assist him and strengthen the barrier. Hey, these insects are getting hard on greatest magus, I smirked. What can I do? I am not made to do these kinds of hard tasks. Poor me, Merlin said dramatically. Should I assist Arturia? I asked Merlin if I should assist her a bit. Don't. It was her time to shine and show her subjects what she is capable of. Merlin said looking at Arturia who was having a hard time dealing with Black Wyvern but she was improving her techniques and strategy keeping up with her opponent. Both Merlin and I could solo this outpost but it was time for Arturia to forge her way in people's hearts. Sure, soon enough Arturia was able to hit Wyvern's critical parts. I also decided to cast buffs on the Chastiefol spear to destroy the barbarian outpost gate. She also came soon and joined the army. Kay also finished his battle and joined. Unlike us, he was a proper knight and has much more battle experience than us. Sir Einar, are you ready? Arturia asked, to which I nodded. She then proceeded to address the rest of the army and soon they were ready to launch the attack. I pointed my finger at the massive wooden door and spoke, bang. Chastiefol, buffed with offensive buffs, disappeared and smashing the door with an explosion. Charge! Arturia gave a war cry and ran towards the barbarian post. Merlin was supporting with little healing and attack boost while I was keeping an eye from the air. With the increase, I could swoop the barbarians in one go, but I will steal all the glory that Arturia should have. Arturia passed the armed barbarians on her horse, defeating them rapidly heading towards the boss. I wanted to join her since the boss was able to tame 3 wyverns so he was not an easy target but I have to keep an eye on any escape route. Scan. I then scanned to detect people with mana in other places and soon found an underground tunnel where people were moving. I flew directly to the end of the tunnel and found people coming out. Slaves? They were slaves that were being led outside from the post. Slavery was very common in this era. Even more, so that no one even thinks about discouraging slavery. Enemy is up front. Shoot the arrows. The person leading the group found me flying in the air and called Bowman to shoot me. I just controlled the spear to spin with lightning speed, deflecting all the arrows. This is getting annoying, I said boringly and then called Chastiefol's 5th form increase. The spear turned into tiny knives and shoot towards the attackers making holes in them. Demon. Run for your life. The commander screamed and ran leaving slaves on their own. It is supposed to be a common strategy that if a commander or enemy chooses to flee or escape other than the king or nobles, you should not chase them, but I was a rational person. Leaving them will create further problems. I just waved my hand and all the kunai flew and made holes on escaping barbarians. Hero is here. Lord Hero is here to protect us. I knew that someone will come and save us. Is he an angel? Sure enough, people started to praise me as a hero. I somehow was able to force a smile since I really don't like it when people place too much hope in you. I sure want to be a knight but I hate being a hero. It is just another way of feeding fish to the poor instead of teaching them to catch fish themselves. After assuring their safety, I came back with 2 knights hanging on flying kunai and told them to protect the people. I then flew again to the position of Arturia to witness her first victory as a king and the beginning of a new era. Oh, make 1, Arrival of Storm in Chaldea. A girl could be seen walking nervously in the hallway towards the special room. She had shoulder-length red hair tied in a side ponytail on the left side with a usually yellow hairband and a cowlick and light orange eyes. I hope I could summon an SSR servant. She was biting her nails and sweating from the anxiety. Her name was Ritsuko Fujimaru, the sole master of Chaldea as well as humanity. Her role was to work as a magus and to summon servants to help in her quest. It was a special day for Ritsuka as she was taking a risk of losing a lot of Saint Quartz for this event. The reason behind this was to complete the servants from the Knights of the Round Table. This morning. Gil-san, why are you so angry? Ritsuka asked Caster Gil. That rude Merlin thinks that he has the greatest clairvoyance and was using his skill to find our belongings and threatening me. Caster Gil crossed his arms. Did he find out your porn collection again? How did you, don't be a mongrel, Ritsuka Fujimaru. More importantly, the point is, if you don't stop him then I will take this matter into my hand. This organization will not be safe. The dogs of the Round Table are really troublesome. Geez, why the hell my other self is up for that genderbend king? Caster Gil said after a moment of embarrassment. Calm down, Gil-san. I will talk to him. Ritsuka tried her negligible womanly charm to stop the King of Heroes. Wait. Caster Gil stopped Ritsuka while looking at the sky before suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, those mongrels of the Round Table shall now face their worst fate ever, ha ha ha. What's the matter now, Gil-san? Is it about another singularity? Ritsuka asked with worry. Haha, no, and rejoice as today you have a good chance to summon a very special servant. Go and summon him. I want to see Merlin's face. I will tell him that his doom is coming. Go now and you may summon him. He is someone from Knights of the Round Table too. Caster Gil said and left. But I promised myself that I will save SQs for a special event. Ritsuka said with a defeated look looking at 30 SQs. But after considering Caster Gil's advice, she has to take the risk. Upon her way, she read various expressions from Knights of the Round Table. I am not feeling well. Something even more fearful from the destruction of humanity is approaching. I could feel it. Gawain could be seen walking with another knight at the Round Table. But I don't think so. I feel like someone very closer to culture will approach us. I must polish my poetry skills and singing skills. I hope that I could defeat that someone someday. Tristan said looking at the sky with open eyes that were rare coming from someone whose eyes were always close or so squinted that he looked Asian. Ugh. Sir Tristan, I advise you to forget about challenging him, especially with your rank E luck. Gawain said with a pale face. Tristan was taken back for a little before he spoke. Let's go fishing. Yes. Who could it be? Ritsuka's curiosity was now getting bigger and bigger. She didn't know why their intuition was working like this. If they have this skill in battle, then she wouldn't have to face near-death experience every time in each singularity. She then saw Bedivere and Lancelot, Saber, walking. Bedivere was flustered for some reason while Lancelot was frowning for some reason. Well, he was always frowning considering his past. Sir Lancelot, my embarrassing memories are kept repeating in front of my eyes. Why? I don't get the reason. Bedivere asked Lancelot with a flushed face. Same here. I felt like a big brother being beaten by his younger brother over and over again. Lancelot shook his face. It is nothing than being forced to wear maid outfit, nurse outfit and act like a girl. I should consult with Merlin to erase my memories. Bedivere said, and a clear smoke could be seen coming from his ears. But being reprimanded by your little brother was also a frustrating moment. Sir Bedivere, let's go fishing. Lancelot suggested like one other night. Yes, you are right, Sir Lancelot. I remember we used this spot to share our sorrows. I hope it doesn't come to worst. Bedivere said with a sigh. Even them? Ritsuka was now certain to roll her luck. She then came across the male toilet and saw Ku Chulayan and Diarmuid Yue Duibni outside the toilet hitting the door. Merlin! Come out now! Siyu screamed. No! Ritsuka heard Merlin's voice. How long are you going to be in the toilet? As long as my tingling feeling in my stomach doesn't get away. My dick is also hurting for some reason. What type of disease be hurting to Merlin, the great mage? Diarmuid asked. Get lost. You 3-star lancers with shit luck should go and pray to a god to improve your luck and don't end up committing suicide. But we are atheists? Then worship that body-tight suit woman, your owner. F***ck my dick hurts. Alright. We are breaking this door. Siyu was pissed and tried to destroy the door, but it was ineffective. Haha, invincibility bitches. What the? Ritsuka was astonished upon hearing foul words from Magus of Flowers. The concern over why Lancers were nervous that there was a need to go to the toilet as a servant didn't ring a bell for Ritsuka. She also saw concerned moms of Chaldea, Emiya and Boudica in the cafeteria. She also bumped into a man with long hair and a two-piece suit that looked like someone from Knights of the Round Table. Who are you? Ritsuka asked. Master, you forget about me. I am Other Lancelot. The man spoke. You mean Berserker Lancelot? Yes, I have been turned into a new leaf. All for the greater good of this organization. I let go of sorrows and hatreds. Lancelot spoke while shaking visibly. The F***ck. Back to the current state. Ritsuka saw Da Vinci and Mash Kirilight in the summoning room. Why are you guys here? Ritsuka asked. She was more concerned since Mash was also looking nervous like the rest of the Knights of the Round Table. She is not feeling well and asked me to stop you from summoning. Da Vinci said. Senpai, my instincts are telling me to stop you. Mash said with a nervous face. Relax, it is normal summoning. Don't worry since my luck is not very good lately. Ritsuka said with crossed fingers. She was determined to summon at any cost. Without waiting for further, Ritsuka rolled. Light of the summoning consumed the room with golden rays and soon a figure emerged from the summoning circle. He was a boy appearing in his teens with blonde hair and an angelic face. He was carrying a book in one hand and floating in the air. Servant, Lancer. My name is Einar Sirius Dulac, the mysterious Knight of the Round Table, their greatest support as well as their doom. The body introduced himself. You can call me Lancer with EX rank or luckiest Lancer or greatest Knight class servant in the history. It was the day side for greatest demise for Knights of the Round Table. Oh make 2. Soon Einar stopped in front of Mash and stared at her coldly. His gaze was so different from his previous eyes filled with warmth and charm than cold and stern. Einar raised his hand on Mash who closed her eyes, afraid of being hit but the slap didn't come. Instead. Bounce asterisk. Her body jolted as she opened her eyes and saw the same hand on her chest fondling her breast. Galahad, is that your tit? Are these freaking boobs? The fuck is wrong with servants? Einar was questioning Mash while his hand was still on her breast. Oh make 3. Sorry, I am Leonardo da Vinci, a caster and the oldest servant here in Chaldea as well as the true genius of history. Da Vinci proudly introduced herself. She then felt a little chill on her spine when she saw Einar's mysterious smile as well as confusion. Hold on, I also have knowledge about history and as far as I know Leonardo da Vinci is polymath but was a freaking man. How come you appear in the body of Mona Lisa? Is my knowledge wrong? Einar asked with his eyes twitching. Haha. In front of true genius, age or gender is meaningless. Da Vinci smiled and wanted to convert the topic but she forgot that she was dealing with a servant with broken luck. You mean that you are bisexual since you are genius? Einar raised his brows. And no. It has nothing to do with my preference. Da Vinci said with a blush and after a second, she realized she lost her coup. She then coughed and explained, you see, I was indeed appeared male in Legends dash. No you are male, old man with proper gender which is fact. Now continue. Man in Legends. Da Vinci forced a smile with her eyebrows twitching. She didn't know why not a single servant was interested in gender-based topic, but Einar was. Anyway, when summoned as a servant, I reshaped into this goddess-like body. Genius, isn't it? She explained, but she knew that true headache was about to come. In simple terms, you become female and lost your manhood. Legend says that you were pretty boy in your teens, but no one knows that you were suffering from short little brother. That's why you changed into a female, because of sexual inferiority. What a sad story. Einar guessed the general problem of the legendary hero and made a sad face. But his every comment pierced Da Vinci's heart like arrows. It's not like that. She was utterly mocked indirectly and was on verge of total defeat. You should have asked Merlin about your sexual problems. He is a dick and specializes in dicks. Please stop. Da Vinci pleaded and was on her knees. It was astonishing that the true genius of the history was getting defeated that easily. Yeah, whatever. I was about to flirt with you even if you were a male in Legends only, but you are old man from inside that killed my interest in you. What a waste of good beauty who is old man in actuality. Einar shook his head. Foam formed in her mouth and she fainted on the spot. Fatality. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kayashin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.